Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today for an update with my Amg G63, the beast of a G-Wagon. Now I've owned this car for coming up towards a year, about 9 or 10 months or so, and if you think back, we had some pretty big plans in store for this, some of which have been done, some of which though haven't yet. Now I did originally think I might keep the G63 for about a year or so. Of course that's coming up remarkably quickly, so what are the plans ahead? Am I going to be keeping it? Today we'll have a bit of an update, kicking off from here in my garage, go out for a short drive over towards the storage to talk about what's ahead for the Amg G63. You may remember that I took delivery of this car in June last year from the Mercedes-Benz HQ here in the UK. We drove up with my Amg GTR at the time to go and collect this in its original paintwork when it was black. Since then it's been to topaz to have the topaz skin, so the entirety of the colour comes in the form of their peelable protection spray in MSO cerulean blue with the satin navy blue to represent the same colour scheme that we have on my McLaren Senna, and I have loved how this looks. In fact, since I collected this car and did all of this, Mercedes have even introduced their own colour for the G-Wagon that is called South Sea Blue and looks remarkably similar to this. That's how much I guess it works with the shapes of this car. We did a few other pretty cool touches as well. For example, the centre locks in cerulean blue, they're looking a little bit dirty at the moment, sorry about that. Left the roof gloss black like the windows on the top of the Senna. We have the satin navy spare wheel cover, like also the wing on the back of the Senna. So all the details kind of tying in really nicely, awesome when they're together. Of course, things went a little bit pear-shaped in the summer shortly thereafter. In fact, on the very day that we collected this finish from topaz, departing topaz when the Senna incident happened, which meant that the only time they were together in their first, I think about 5 months of ownership of the G was literally for that short, about 15-20 mile drive towards the M25. That wasn't what I intended. We've had them together a few times since. Of course, when the Senna was finished being repaired, I took this with the trailer from Turbo Transport to go and collect it, and that was a big part of the plans with this car. I wanted to use it to haul some of the other cars around. And for example, I think the best demonstration of that was going to collect the SLS AMG Black Series from Munich, where Tony from Turbo Transport and I took this to go and, well, I went over to Germany to get his trailer and Tony, and then we drove to Munich to get the SLS, and then drove all the way through the night together to get this back home. So I've literally slept overnight in the car. We've been everywhere with it. It hasn't done anywhere nearly as many miles yet as I thought that it would. In fact, I think the odometer, if we just come through and open this up, and this is one of my favourite things that I love about the car, that noise you get when you lock and unlock it from the relays on the door locking mechanism, and also the general feel as you plunk open those beastly doors as well. But inside, yes, it's done 7,000 miles. I can just see through the window at the moment. I thought in the first year I would do maybe around 15,000 or so, so it's substantially less than I was actually expecting out of it, partly because with everything that happened with the Senna, I extended my tour in the USA, which meant I had way less time in Europe trailering the Senna around with this, which is what I had intended at the time, but also just because I've been doing so many other things, now of course not doing so much driving at this time of year as I expected. I thought I might also take it perhaps to Scandinavia or down towards the Alps, and that hasn't ended up happening. Well, I guess it has been. I think it's been to Bugatti at one point in Molsheim in France, pretty near to Geneva in the French and Swiss Alps, but it's slightly less miles than I thought, so I feel like it's not yet done everything. I've never done any serious off-roading with my G63. I have with other G63s from Mercedes on maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different occasions, so I've had pretty good experience of what the car can do, but I think it needs to do a bit more towing, a bit more driving, so I don't feel like this car has reached its, if we could say, kind of end of life yet. There's more to be done. Anyway, let me hop on board now. We will take the car to go out for a short little ride. Inside, it's just really comfortable and really nice. These are the upgraded seats with the different design you can see on the seat back, padded headrests. It's really, really, really comfortable. I see 7117 at the moment on the dashboard, but let's just turn it on and bring this into life very quickly. And that's the normal start. Those headlights, I love what they do. I love the way they dance and move around in front of you. Obviously you can press that button and the Akrapovic exhaust does an even louder burble. Listen to that. One of the coolest things. Remember that we changed the Akrapovic exhaust. It's also got the Rentec ability to tune it, so you can either put it on full tune or normal stock tune but obviously having to control the exhaust. So I have the ability to hop through that on the fly. I generally keep it in the normal tune, but that noise, such a brilliant grumble, deep rumble. And one thing, here's a good update for you. One thing that's really cool about this car you don't necessarily think about, I have mentioned it before, you have the side exit exhausts on each side just behind you, right behind the driver or the passenger, depending which side. If you get the overrun bangs going on, for example, you get them going from one side to the other. It's like a stereo exhaust system, because you hear it go pop, 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 pop across behind your shoulders. It's really, really quite cool. I'll never be able to, I think, portray that on a camera, but it sounds very, very good. And of course, just to be gentle with it, yes, you get the point. It sounds mega, and that's in comfort. If we go to this toggle, we can put it up here through Sport Plus, or if we go the other way, we can go to individual, which I have set up, like you can see, comfort suspension, but dynamic pretty much everything else. And here is where you get some of those bangs. And that's not even revving it hard. When you rev it hard, this thing gets immensely louder. Yes, it's a very, very cool place and a very nice car to be driving. Part of that is down to the driving experience. So let's head out then, go for a short little ride, and I'll tell you a little bit more why I like the car so much, and well, I can tell you right now why it is not going to be going at a year as I expected. In all of the time that I've had this car so far, there is one thing that it's doing that is really peculiar. When you go into gear, that happens. The parking sensors go off as if there is something all around you, which I understand is a thing that G-Wagons do. I've not yet asked Mercedes. It will go to the dealer and hopefully that can be fixed. But whenever you come to a standstill or start moving, the parking sensors go off, which at the moment is really, really, really irritating. The cool thing about it though, that, well, at least for me, is that it's a pretty big car, but here in the car park, I can go into, case in point, I can go into the cameras, and at least I can use the side cameras to work out where these ramps are to make sure that I can exit up here. I always do a bit of a 3-point turn of it to make sure that it works out safely and to not curb these very big wheels, looking at the screen in the center to make sure that we get this right, like so, and we can get out of the garage. It is within like 2 centimeters of the roof, so I also have to go very, very, very carefully. Future G-Wagons had better not be any taller than this one. Anyway, we'll get outside, go for a short little drive, and I'll give you a few more insights. The thing with driving a G-Wagon is that you are sat so high up, the seating position is so high that you just kind of look over any other traffic. I mean, in front of me right now, I've got an Audi SQ5, which is not exactly a small car, and I just kind of look straight over his roofline, particularly cars like the Golf on the left. And that means in the city, when you've got lots of traffic around, it is a really comfortable place to be because you've got good visibility, which makes it quite an easy car to daily drive and to use and to live with. Plus the fact that it's got a super smooth automatic gearbox, it's very, very comfortable. When you're driving in comfort mode, it rides over bumps, obviously, as you would expect from a car with this much suspension travel, but it can be pretty dynamic if you turn it up. You've got stop-start. It's not as inefficient as I expected. Obviously, when pulling a loaded trailer, the numbers aren't exactly good. About 10 to 10.5 miles per gallon for anybody out there. But when you're on a gentle run on cruise control at 70 miles an hour on the motorway, you're getting more like 18, 19 mpg, which isn't that bad. Obviously, when on the Autobahn and putting the foot down, yeah, it gets pretty horrendous. But I find it a really comfortable place to be sat. Great displays in front of you, really nice steering wheel. It feels sporty, it sounds great. It's plenty quick enough. I very rarely use anything like the performance that this car has on offer. It is really, really, really terrifyingly fast. Of course, with the Rentec tune, it is over 1,000 Newton meters of torque, and it's about 730 horsepower. So, yeah, that's a lot. The standard car is already 585 horsepower on the 4-litre twin-turbo V8, and I think the standard car is 850 Newton meters. So those numbers jumped, well, to a different level when we did the Rentec modifications, and we put the car on the dyno. Of course, that was back when it was fairly new. We did the towpath skin, took it over to Germany, got all of that side of things done, and that was the early days. I've even taken this car around the Nürburgring. I've done a lap of the green hell in the G-Wagon, through the carousel and everything, which was awesome. Just had to watch a little bit for the understeer and hope that nothing went drastically wrong, which it didn't. Just had a great, great, great time out in it. But just driving like this, steering is light, it's easy, it's comfortable, and then you can, because it's in comfort at the moment, obviously go into individual, have manual, you know, just a kind of low rev range gear drop. We'll pop it back into comfort for the time being, but And it has hold. This is something I like. When you're at a traffic light, if you press firmly on the brake pedal, it activates hold, so it will hold itself in gear from that point. Oh, sorry, hold itself at a standstill from that point, which again, just daily creature comforts, making life a little bit easier for the driving experience. Good visibility through the mirrors being sat so high up, good visibility through the vertical rear window. For the size of the car, the footprint isn't that crazy big. Yes, okay, it's long and wide, but it's not as big as, you know, a pickup or something like that. It has lots and lots of capability. We've seen that with towing, we've seen that with the off-roading. All around, it's a car that, you know, comes to a stop, press the brake firmly, we're back on hold, engine cuts off. I'm sat in nice seats with massaging and heated and ventilation and everything else. But you've got some of those old G-Wagon style things, like the doors, like the grab handle for the passenger side, which is just cool. Got a sun roof. It'd be nice to have a bigger glass panoramic roof or something maybe, but that's not an option, not on offer for this. And it's got the slightly older software. This was kind of the last car to have this generation of the screens before the MBUX, which was then introduced on the A-Class. So it's slightly ironic that the big flagship G-Wagon has the previous generation, which doesn't offer all of the functionality of MBUX. I mean, I'm not complaining too much because it does everything that I kind of want it to, but it is, I guess, a point that it doesn't have that. And obviously at the moment I'm just cruising in central London. This is not the most exciting drive in the world, but even as a van goes past, we're sat up on that same height, which just makes that driving experience super pleasant and easy and just a walk in the park, literally. So like I said, I do not intend to sell this car yet. When I bought it, to be honest, I actually thought that I was just going to have it for about 12 months. I thought that was going to be the plan, 12 months, and then we'll see what happens. In reality, I've daily driven it, I've used it all through winter. I'd like to take it to the mountains. Obviously those plans didn't work out this winter. I'd like to take it further afield and I'd like to do more transportation with it. I think in my mind, I see keeping this car until it's updated, we could say, and then I'll be interested in potentially the replacement. I say replacement, but you know, there are rumours aplenty of an Amg G63 or that kind of thing, maybe a hybridized version, a more powerful version. Not that it's necessary, just because I think it's cool. But we'll see what comes out, what launches in the future. I don't know at all at this time, and I think this space is one that's so vague at the moment. Who knows what the future's actually going to have in store for us. But realistically, this isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon because it's such a brilliant car to drive. And I'm not going to lie, my girlfriend loves it as well, and that's also quite important in the decision making as the car to use. It's done a great job of moving stuff around, it's super practical and super useful just in every way, pretty much. One thing that is cool about where I am right now is this is exactly where pretty much every Shmeemobile to date has been. In fact, I filmed my Senna right here, I filmed the Ford GT right above us, and going way back, October 2012, it was right here that I revealed my Audi R8 Spider back at the time. Wow, almost 8 years ago. Well, here we are today with the G63, the practical car. Been into the supermarket to do a little bit of shopping, but this thing, we can come around the back, you can see that at the moment it is not exactly the cleanest car in the world, but I tell you what, this colour does a very nice job of disguising some of that dirt. You don't really see that it's as filthy as it is, apart from on the wheels, because they've gone slightly, well, bronzed from the dirt and I guess brake dust and things as well. Gigantic brakes, and equally the Amg calipers that sit on them, as well as you would expect to stop the weight of a G63. But it's so, I mean, they took the old shape, right? It's basically the same, just updated to have things like the new look AMG grille, to have the new LED headlights, still has these indicators worn on the corners, all the features and details that I guess made a G-Wagon famous. And then in the back, you've got a ton of space, throwing in a lot of stuff back there. You've obviously also got a decent amount of space going on back here as well. And because it's this kind of box shape, it means it's super easy to load, to stick a lot of stuff in. Obviously the spare plate for towing the trailer, where you have to have the plate that you snap onto the back of it. But even the boot has the diamond quilting on the boot door itself. It's a car that I'm a big fan of. I like it an awful lot, and this is why I'm going to be sticking with it for the time being, just to use and to keep living with, really. So let's head back on over towards the storage. What are the plans ahead then for this car? Well, I've talked a bit about how everything at the time I'm filming this has been cancelled for what's ahead. Of course, things seem to be changing very rapidly, and I'm sure by the time that this video goes live, the situation will all be a little bit different again. I would like to use it for some more long distance transportation of cars, you know, taking, let's say, the Senna to a racetrack a long way away, something like that, which is so easy to use towing behind a car like this. It is so
docile when it's towing that amount of weight due to simply how much power it's got, that I actually think it would be quite fun to almost do a drag race with a trailer behind. I'm not necessarily sure that's the wisest idea in the world, but there are lots of things that I can think of that I'd still like to do with the car, so a year just doesn't feel like long enough with this car. I need to have it for way longer than that to do some more. Anywho, we'll head now towards the storage to, well, get this with some of the other Shmeemobiles and a few final thoughts. And back in the storage where I was going to park the G63 into the empty space that I have alongside the Senna, except one little problem. The G63, as I alluded to earlier on, is really quite tall, which means you do need to watch out going into underground car parks, in here in particular with some of the pipes up on the roof, so I'll have to do a little bit of switching around later on. But obviously the colours of this were created to mimic this, the MSO cerulean blue, with those satin navy carbon accents that we have throughout. Of course, we didn't make the bumpers and the arches out of carbon. That would have been fiendishly expensive, but they are in the navy satin blue topaz skin to match and give the same effect. But very, very cool having these two cars together. Like I said, it didn't happen necessarily as quickly as I had intended and as frequently as I had originally intended, but that's why I'm hoping the future is going to have plenty more of that as well. The opportunities to take these two out. We've got the ultimate track car, and I guess the ultimate bodyguard as well, in the form of the G63. This thing, well, the two when they're side by side, I mean the wing of the Senna, which is hugely tall, is still about the same height as the indicators on the front of the G-Wagon. They are very, very different cars, although both sharing, actually, this is a fun one, they both share having 4-litre twin turbocharged V8s. In the case of the Senna, 800 horsepower, 585 up to 727, but two very, very, very different bright blue cars. So there we go, bit of an update with the G63, not going anywhere anytime soon, still absolutely loving kind of daily driving it, just using it, having the option of a very, very practical car. Of course, I do have the Focus RSs and also the Ferrari GTC 4 Lusso, but they're not the same level of practicality as this thing is. It's a different category when it comes to that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. That is it for this time, though. I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!